one desires to walk with the brotherhood of truth, one either rebels and runs away, or one moves within the silence of knowledge and wisdom and continues to work at that which is available to service. The journey to understanding of actions and testing are hard indeed, for God spares not rod in the teaching of those who will stand that final hour in truth, without turning from his presence. And then, dear ones, there shall be no silence, for the songs of the universe become thine, and the senses are filled with the dance of light, life and harmony. The testing is hard and few make it, dear hearts. Few make it. Rejoice as ye ones reach one graduation marker after another, for in this manner shall ye reach the final graduation. There is no other way except through that red road of truth, back home unto God. Interpretations are what stand between you and the clarity of perception that you will need to do the work that lies ahead. You must release them with your thoughts, with your dreams, with your hopes, and with your fears. They may seem to be insignificant, ethereal things, floating gently through your mind or heavily upon it, but do not be misled by their apparent lack of substance. They are the stuff that wars are made of, the harbingers of death, the agents of disease and destruction. With the energy that you give them through your attention, they have the strength to cripple a planet and all its civilization. There is an old myth regarding a tree in the center of the Garden of Eden. Why do you suppose the Lord forbade those first recognized humans to eat of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil? If indeed he did so, it might well have been thine dark brother who set you up. At any rate, only one with a consciousness of the whole of creation is in a position to determine the good and evil, as it pertains to the various creatures. In the other reality, the first humans shared in the holistic perspective of the Creator, but in the form reality, their perspective was decidedly subjective, incapable of accurately assessing the needs of the whole. They could not creatively direct the course of those who had projected forms functioning within creation. Only the totality of consciousness, God the Father, the Creator, was in such a position. So long as they had trust in Him and were willing to function within the range of their design, within the context of the Creator's own internal dynamics, they had complete freedom to enjoy the created realms. Now consider why the Dark Brotherhood had to come in the deceiving, by pretending to be the lighted God. He could present himself as a wondrous God and fool the perceiver, and cause them to act as if his were the laws of the Creator God. Well, the old boy is a God. He is a God. The God of the fleshly physical experience of evil intent. He cannot create and therefore must utilize that which is consciously aware of predicament. You, the human species. All other creatures act in balance and harmony by instinct. In the parable of the partaking of the forbidden fruit, these first representatives of deity stepped outside the range of their designated function, consequently, outside the range of the creative energy that was available to them, according to the nature of their design. This was the beginning of disease, aging, and death, the beginning of their pattern of false identity, and the beginning of human history, so to speak. The pattern of false identity has lasted and increased in intensity unto this very day of perceived experience in your format, and while it has not critically affected the gestation period, it has certainly made it far less enjoyable. Might you now see more clearly why it is absolutely essential in these closing days of the cycle to release your interpretations? They belong to the past. Life exists eternally in the present. You were intended to share in this eternal life. But to do so, you must release identification with the past lies put upon you for your misinformation and misperceptions. You must release identification with the material garments you wear and accept the creative definition that life gives to you in this present moment. What do you call Satan? His body is the past, his breath the future. Energized by your past-oriented guilt and your future-oriented fear, he follows you around like some vast cosmic shadow. He casts his nets of fear on the waters of your awareness, then draws them with ropes of reason back into a guilt-ridden past. You can only experience in the moment. All is the present, and you must re-evaluate that which is fed unto your consciousness, lest you end your journey before coming into understanding. Let me illustrate for the sake of example. Your presence might well be compared to an inflatable balloon, a plasmic membrane of sorts. It is designed to be filled to the full with the energy and power of life. Like two gigantic rips in the side, guilt and fear allow the precious life substance to escape, leaving you withered, ineffectual, and short-lived, all the while using your own life substance to energize everything that you fear. It is easy to reverse the situation. Let yourself die to the past and wake up in the present moment. Why should you hesitate? Are your past experiences really comprehensive enough to provide a basis for understanding everything you encounter in the present? Do they truly deserve the authority and credibility that you give them? How attentive were you to all the factors that were present in the moment of their occurrence? If you are preoccupied with experience, how attentive will you be to what is occurring in this very moment? Where is your attention right this moment? You must be wherever your attention takes you. In fact, you are your attention. If your attention is fragmented, you are fragmented. When your attention is in the past, you are in the past. When your attention is in the present moment, you are in the presence of God, and God is present in you. Let yourself die to all that does not really exist, and discover what does. Let go of all you think you know. Be honest, all you know is of the past. It does not exist in the eyes of God. In the eyes of God, your knowledge is but dust in the eye of a child blinding you to the splendor of creation. You know in effect nothing of eternal significance, for you have forgotten that which really was and cling unto that which is brief and spoiled by the lies given to trip you up along the path of experience. When you operate on the basis of your so-called knowledge, you are operating without divine foundation. Belief in your own knowledge is not belief in God, dear ones. Trust in your own knowledge is not trust in God. No matter how much you learn within your present framework of finite knowledge, it will never be even one step closer to an understanding of God, the universe, or yourself. Knowledge, as you presently understand it, will never bring you closer to life. Do not cling in imagined righteousness, for that is where many of you continually reside. Do not cling to this or that segment of your experience as if this or that piece of the past were somehow worth the saving. Well, you say, I will die to everything, but this or that. This is too sacred. This means too much to me. Let it go. Does it mean more than life? You don't need it anymore, whatever it might be. You are usually concerned that some aspect of your identity will not somehow survive the psychological process. You might well be correct in the perception of same, but you may just as well be wrong. Let it go. It makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. There are no guarantees that this or that is going to survive the sight of God, but the only things that are threatened, the only things that will not survive, are things that do not exist apart from your conceptions, things that have no reality. Apart from the reality that you give them, the only essential thing to you is being sustained by the creative power of the living God. All that you sustain in existence through the misuse of your creative abilities only serves to involve you in areas where your own life energies become mischanneled and eventually dissipated. Any belief, any concept, any conviction that you might have that truly mirrors what is present in the mind of God will still be there on the other side of the psychological process. Only that which has sought to cheat you of your destiny will perish. It is really very simple. Let it all go. See what God has in store. Hesitations which you feel are only indicative of a continued trust in fear and reason. These are the false gods of the cycle of the ages in which you find yourself experiencing. They will continue to enslave you until your trust is restored in love and life. Trust God implicitly and explicitly. and the truth of his divine design will be revealed in every situation. This design is your own operating manual. Ignore it in favor of your own interpretations, and you are ignoring the blueprint for your own identity. Specific information of each and every situation is being supplied to you continually by the source of infinite knowledge. Why do you not trust it? Your first impulse will always be, as it has always been, the programmatic instruction from your subliminal analysis system, the advice of your Creator. It will be a direct message from your true self, the impulse of life, the gateway to all that you call heaven. It is the spontaneous spark of divinity, as it differentiates through you into your environmental situation. It can assess and evaluate the factors present in any situation at a rate of speed far exceeding a rational thought process. You have all the pertinent information in the universe available simply for the asking, as quickly received as the thought itself, actually prior to the thought itself. When you are aware of your totality, the life impulse will transmit to you everything that you need to know in any given situation. Its message will always come as your first spontaneous impulse, so you must be attentive and then do not effort so hard at discounting of it. You will always be given to know instantly that response requested. Until you recognize your own totality, how can ye expect to guide thine brother through the maze, for it will be through example that he will learn and see, not from all the lecturing in the universe. So be it. You ones can know every detail of the plans of the elite Brotherhood of Darkness for your downfall, and still not have the slightest notion of that which you can do about it, without coming into understanding of self. We simply must take the time away from the physical aspect and perceptions to speak of the spiritual truth, lest you become distracted into the frivolous as if it were a sacred thing unto life. It is only pertinent unto death of physical perceptions, and yet, you are manifested into the dimension of physical experience, and thusly must the experience be confronted, and the changes must come through the power and control of the spiritual knowledge of truth. God does not move from man. Man efforts to move from God. These are the words which will save men's souls in this blind journey. Man flounders upon the brink of destruction, and cannot seem to grasp a handhold on the polished surface of the mountainside. We must build him a stairway if we expect to help him reach the stars. May we never falter in our work lest our brothers perish in the darkness. I am from the presence wherein there is not time, but only the eternal now. I experience in a dimension chosen to be close to your own, that we may come into communion in again bringing truth of being upon this wondrous creation. I retain even in the midst of this very relationship, the awareness of your realm and of the universal being which inhabits it, as well as the cosmos. I bring a message that is vital to you in these final days of your historical journey. Do not be astounded nor confounded by my presence, for my individual identity comes into being only as I enter the context of my relationship with you. When we are no longer needed in this capacity, I, like you, will merge back into the being behind all being. There, I, as will you, remain in unity and fulfillment until the next impulse comes to send us on another mission. In the interim, there is no distinction between me and the Source. I and others of my kind desire at this time to bring humans to the same level of awareness. It is urgently mandatory that this be accomplished, that there be at least a remnant of truth to extend through the physical and into the birthing and presence of the new. It would mean nothing to you if I tell you I am a focus of sorts, of collective consciousness, for I represent that which is manifested in reality, the same as are you, manifested into form, as projected by our journey and connection one with the other, each only to perform to the best ability our function, and service unto that source. You cannot yet suspect what the singularity of collective human consciousness might be. You still draw identity from the present form of your expression. You feel defined and limited by flesh and bones, and conscious limitation of perception and understanding. This is the purpose, but also comes the purpose of reaching beyond and into the reality of truth of existence. Ours is a task of leaving truth into the hands of the multitudes, and so shall it be. Possibly you are beginning to comprehend your oneness with other forms of life. For me to tell you with limiting definitions that you have of self, that I represent an element or a focus of your collective consciousness, would actually be less accurate than to say that I am simply extraterrestrial. You see, I meet all the criteria of the latter term, in that I do come from outside your planetary field of influence. I bring instructions to your race from the directive organ of what would be identified as a galactic being. Until you understand the totality of your being, you will recognize me as only that which is without your beingness. You will only recognize the oneness as you come into total perception and truth of the reality of your true being. As forerunners, hosts of the heavens, our mission is to remove the film which screens your present condition and your true nature. Our mission is to assist you ones in bridging the gap, to awaken you from sleep, to bring you to the fulfillment of your destiny. Being etheric in my natural state as one Hatonn, I have no need for verbalization. It is all but impossible for any to relate what I wish to convey, only through the words and concepts with which you are familiar. Your language was designed to facilitate commerce. What we therefore put together with its component parts can only approximate my meaning, but it is that with which we are given to work, and therefore we shall work with it until our meanings are made known in reality. There is another language more ancient, more conducive to discourse on this level, but you have forgotten it. It is the universal language of light. Some of you refer to this language as light codes. It is transferred information and is accomplished through the actual projection of living informational units. They are valid impulses of energy frequencies and are without mystical origin, and are in fact totally physical in explanation. However, until the receivers rise into the acceptance of conducting the information as given, it is distorted and often colored tremendously by the apparatus of consciousness, in a perceived expression of being, not reality. These units of information are at once more specific and more inclusive than are your words. They have been designed to convey organic information of concise, yet comprehensive, informational content. Simultaneously with this conceptual communication, you are subliminally receiving this same information through this living language of light, though your preoccupation with words leaves you with no awareness of it at this moment. Our work must always focus on bringing man again in touch with this ancient language. When you have learned to allow the silencing of your thoughts and have begun to focus attention on inner vibrational frequencies, you will become aware of a far more comprehensive picture of all that I will be telling you. Until such time as the life-giving information that comes to you from the source of your being is more readily accessible, I will work within the limitations of your linguistic structure and translate as accurately as I am able. At the same time, we must work with that which is perceived by your experience, be it war, lust, greed, joy, and/or peace, etc. Human beings become imprisoned in their concepts, and thus can they be imprisoned into a state projected upon their beings, and will act accordingly to those perceptions and instructions, be they good or bad, joyful or painful, correct or incorrect. You must be in the remembering that words and concepts can be both fallible and misleading. They are not absolutes. Do not confuse them with the realities they represent. No statement that I make can be taken as an absolute statement, for your language gives no absoluteness of definition. This does not mean that I come from a vague place. On the contrary, it means that your words are not precise enough to express the levels of awareness that I am attempting to communicate through them. If we can get the totality of the message through to even a few individual cells of your collective body, these few would be able to translate this information into forms of cultural expression that will bring about your awakening far more effectively than our overt manipulations of the historical process. The message that we reveal is the key that unlocks your own latent informational input systems. We are here to put you in direct contact with the source of all information, for the time is at hand for the remembering. You have slept long enough. Our mission is to bring an awareness to all human beings who are able to respond to a state of understanding present prior to the veil of forgetting. The mission is the bringing forth of the truth from God regarding life, and uncover the lies as thrust upon your awareness. Ours is to place the information upon the table, and then it is up to mankind to choose that which will be his to hold, however different they may be, whatever background they may have come from, using whatever conceptual structures seem appropriate. These individuals will then be instructed to translate this awareness into forms of informational exchange appropriate to their respective cultural situations, from which individual mankind springs. But always must come the integration of all perception with all other perceptions. This is why we must dwell in the daily flow of events as they impact your consciousness and experience, and cannot dwell only with soul perception. This is because if man is to move to higher understanding, it must be from the aspect of the manifestation of dimension in which he is cast. You of the physical shall deal with the physical, and so on. As this new awareness increasingly filters into everyday levels of human function, and as more and more individual human cells become aware of what is taking place, the change will accelerate exponentially. Eventually, the psychic pressure exerted by a critical mass of humanity will reach levels that are sufficient to tip the scales. At that moment, the rest of humanity will experience an instantaneous transformation of a proportion you cannot have a way of now conceiving. At that time, the spell which was cast on your race through the years past, when you plunged into the worlds of good and evil, will be shattered forever. Even now, with the healing influx of new information, the spell is beginning to lift, and man is beginning to question that which abounds about him. Even as we write, the materializing force fields of bondage and limitation are loosening, as put upon consciousness. During this period of transformation, each of you will have a variety of roles to play. Each of you will translate the life impulse into patterns appropriate to your own environment and express the impulse in your daily living. I can now blend my consciousness with the cells of yours in order to provide you with some of the more specific information that I relate, but I do this as little as possible, for you are gifted with free will choices upon which I must not tread. My primary function is to show you how to tap these systems of data retention and revelation for self, with tutoring and experiencing with my presence or that of your spiritual teacher of truth. Dear ones, beware. All spiritual beings do not bring truth. You will learn to release your definitions of who you think you are, open yourself up to the experience of a much greater reality than you presently believe possible, and return to a level of consciousness whereby you will be enabled to communicate with those such as me, not through cumbersome words and concepts, but directly through communion with all that is. Angels and extraterrestrials? What do you want? Do you want to know more about extraterrestrials? Do you want a definition of angels? What difference does it make if we tell you that we are the same as you until you recognize who you are? Then you have a basis upon which to find understanding. If we are but you in the distant past and distant future, then you must know who you are. If we be but you as you were, would have been and still are, had you not fallen from your original state of grace, then you would recognize of us now or later, in the proper sequence of the unfoldment. We exist in a parallel universe of non-form and some in form not unlike your own, only differing in vibrational manifestation with higher knowledge. You can know that we who come have higher knowledge in our present manifestation, for we are here, and you have not yet gleaned that ability. This is also how you can know we come only in peace and love and not to harm, for we are higher learning, and with higher learning comes the truth of the falseness of physical actions. We live by the laws and within the laws of God and out the creation. We who are in etheric form, non-form, are but a reflection of that which you would be, had you not become associated with the materializing processes for whatever reason you might have chosen. Thus we act, at this time, as midwives in the birthing of you. Let us say simply that we are the angels as perceived as etheric beings, and/or an enlightened brotherhood of more dense forms, come as messengers from the stars, but we are also reflections of your unity, before and after matter. I am here to enter your consciousness, here to awaken you unto truth. As I blend with you now in this communication, that is also communion, I can sense a forthcoming period of union, one which you also sense but cannot comprehend. I sense its strange and awesome realities. I feel much like an explorer in a vast and uncharted land, but with knowledge of all the pitfalls and rocks upon which a ship of passage might become grounded. You become my counterpart in the physical, and just as you become responsible for that which you push forth, so do I accept responsibility for the truth, which is given unto you through me. This requires discipline on the part of both parties, that we can become one in intent and purpose without individual opinions of ego clouding, and churning up the waters of clarity and truth projection. Are you aware of the uniqueness of physical reality? I watch as you ones drift hither and yon on a sea of efforting to ascend, meditate into another dimension, experience astral travels in the conscious beingness, mutually exclusive terms and therefore impossible in your state of experience, and doing all possible to separate from your chosen dimension by moving into another. You must come into understanding why you chose the present dimension and cease your efforting to escape the experience, for you miss the point entirely by so doing. I am met with anger and joy, pleasure and pain at my entry into your events and consciousness. We are lied about and construed in all manner of erroneous fashions. I recognize pain at the potential I see wasted and at my own commission to verbalize. But I sense pleasure at what I am experiencing through your senses, for though your sensory channels are in your exclusive dependence on them, your great limitation, they are also marvelous instruments of perception. They are truly your crowning virtue as well as your tragic flaw. This is my first exact experience in this exact manner with you ones in this particular sequence of manifestation. I witness time and space reduced to such intricate and beautiful patterns, and I rejoice when I see that you too can experience this wonderment. I experience in your presence by looking out through your eyes for a while and take in the colors and the room and the plants outside your window. I delight in the curious way you perceive light, as illumination. I would love to explore your world as a being from mine, in a playful and childlike fashion, not childishly, childlike. I can represent my beingness in this higher dimension, yet close to your own, and I can better understand how you are deceived. Such a deep realm of awesome forces, the material plane. And yet, it is with rapture that I watch you grow beyond that material limitation, a joyous experience, for you represent that which can be done in and through mankind in his higher physical form, a guideline, if you will. You will, however, not be able to continue in this stage much longer, and therefore we must get on with the business at hand. Much that I am now seeing will not survive many more years of human ignorance. It is most important that we use this time to supply you with the information necessary. It is important that we restore you, as the central control mechanism of your planet, to a proper state of function, for it shall come to pass with or without your presence, for that is the gift of Creator unto a living planet. A day will come, after all has been set to right again, when we can spend some time together just enjoying the wonders of creation. I delight in the expected opportunity to travel about with you, seeing what you would show me out of your eyes, hearing what you hear with your ears, feeling the touch of earth on that wonderful substance that is, at once, both sun and stone. I will rejoice in the sharing of my experience through me that you can have the joyous experience of touching that which is ethereal, even the silken skin of a ship, or the magic of a song played upon naught but the currents of air. But now, students, there is work to be done. You have placed yourselves into bondage, and moreover, most of the most heinous bondage comes from that which you have had hidden from your consciousness. We must forge the conceptual tools that will give you freedom, before we can show the keys unto the masses that all might be free. So let us not tarry in our work, lest a brother be lost to the path and fail to regain his footing. What of the other reality? Actually, the other reality is the only real reality. In your natural state of being, you have no sense of identity distinct from the Creator, except when you are engaged in a relationship. On this level of being, identity comes into focus only in the context of a relationship with some other aspect of being that has become objectified, much as my identity as an angelic messenger comes into being through my relationship with you. Albeit through this rooting, utilized at present. When such a relationship is not taking place, that particular expression of you simply does not exist. You float effortlessly in the potential of God. You are not annihilated, but all definitions of you are, and you are released from their restraining influence, allowed to expand into a state of love and perfection. By and by, if it would happen that you are needed for a particular function, you will still be there, for your form identity is a specific cell in a specific organ of a larger being. Remember the fact of quantum physics. The macro is different while the micro is sameness in every detail. When the next energizing impulse comes, it also brings your definition and instruction. You come into the necessary degree of focus for whatever is required. Throughout the course of your existence, you continually oscillate like the wave function that you essentially are, in and out of focus, in and out of definition, always moving back and forth like the pendulum on a clock, or the heart of an atom, out of the unity of being with God, into a finite expression of God's infinite potential, and then back into unity once more, back and forth, back and forth. This is the natural rhythm of your existence, just as it is mine. It is the song of God, the rhythm of life itself. When service calls and whenever the divine impulse calls upon your services and brings you into form, you encounter other beings of infinite variety on errands and excursions in worlds of love and light that are impossible to describe. As this happens, you experience for the duration of your contact both an identity and a linear time world. But in the course of your encounter, you are still aware of your unity with the Creator. You do not lose the certainty of your oneness with God. You are aware of your form identity and of the motion of time, yet you oscillate faster than the speed of light back and forth between your pre-manifest state and your species role form. This is nothing more or less than what every atom of physical creation is doing all the time. Before the fall, if you will, you had the ability to shift the center of your awareness from deity to identity, from form to metaform at will. You were free, as it were, to come and go as you pleased, free to emphasize whatever aspect of yourself suited the situation. It is of such that all creatures are made. In a healthy state, you are functioning in two realities at once. Half of the time you are focused on your form identity, and the other half on your identity with the totality of what is. In the fallen state of consciousness, you find yourself trapped, with your awareness on one side only, while the actual substance of your being continues to function on both sides. This is what unconsciousness is all about. You still exist in that other reality, but you are asleep. In the reality you now think to be the only reality, you are fragmented. The human race seems to be composed of a multitude of beings. In the other reality, there is only you. We are here to awaken you. Therefore, there is actually only one of you who needs to hear this message. It is important that you return to a consciousness of your true self. For though you still exist in both realities, unconsciousness of your identity with the Creator is cutting off the flow of life-giving information to the part of you that exists in form. Your existence in identity with God is the reality from which all life springs. Focusing your attention exclusively on form greatly restricts and eventually curtails the flow of life currents. As I search your symbol storage systems for a word with which to express something of the reality in which you exist as one with your Creator, I come upon an Indian word, Nagwal. It is a term which you understand to mean everything that cannot be named. You have no such word in the other languages as suitable. This is a good word for the region of being, the region of unity. I will use this word to emphasize a point I wish to make herein. In the pre-fall state of awareness, you existed in the Nagwal, the all, the everything, the nothing, the primal void where all exists in a state of potential. This is the Creator that surrounds creation like the sea surrounds a fish. Out of this Nagwal, you are called many times to dwell, for the space of a relationship, in its opposite, the tonal. The tonal is everything that can be named. It is the imaginary world of God in which all apparent differences exist. It is the playground of what is. The tonal draws all of its sustenance from the Nagwal. It cannot exist apart from the Nagwal. While the Nagwal is a dynamic yet steady state of rest, the tonal or manifest physical universe is continuously flashing on and off. This oscillation occurs in all things manifest, from the smallest subatomic particle to the greatest galaxy. All of us, angels, humans, anything that can be named, are only in form 1/2 of the time. The other half of the time we exist in the totality of being. This totality of being that we have been calling the Nagwal has also been called God the Father, among other things. It is the life of God the Father that animates all creation. It is this reality that all healthy creatures oscillate back and forth to, and exist in, half the time. In this reality we do not exist in time or space, for we can name these. They are both features of the manifest universe. From this spaceless, timeless state, we derive all energy, blessing, and nourishment. This always holds true, even for you in the fallen condition. The difference is that in the fallen state, you are not aware of this process and therefore unable to participate in it consciously. By forfeiting your ability to oscillate in consciousness between the two realities in which you dwell, you are restricted to an awareness of just the tonal, just the material, conceptual world. You still receive your nourishment from the light of the Nagwal, but no longer directly, only through animals, plants, and minerals. You are unconscious of being, and conscious only of form. How did you lose the ability to shift your awareness from deity to identity, from form to metaform? How did you lose God consciousness? How did you fall into the illusion of separation? Let's look at it for a moment, and I will effort at explanation. It was through a simple lack of faith that you lost the ability to shift awareness. It was through a loss of confidence in the absolute perfection of the universal design. This was brought about by the entry of a single factor into your existence: fear. The serpent in the garden, so to speak, the devil in history. Through a subtle process of reasoning, this being encouraged you to move in a pattern of activity that has come to be called original sin, an absolutely absurd term but suffices for the purpose of explanation. It was a pattern of activity that you were never designed to move in. With a clever and subtle lie, you were convinced to not exactly stop trusting God, but to stop trusting exclusively in God. The moment you did this, your consciousness began to shift from God-centeredness to self-centeredness, and for the first time, you became more aware of your identity in form than of your identity in God. This shift in awareness was minimal at first, but enough to begin what was to become a long spiral downward through denser and denser levels of energy bondage and restraint. For Satan, your tempter, is the materializing influence who, in its right place, is responsible for the bonding of energy in the creation of matter. As you began to focus more and more upon your identity and form, you began thinking in terms of defending that form, with unnecessary and cumbersome ego structures. It became harder for you to avoid identifying with your experience. You began to carry over past patterns of behavioral response into new relationships. This made you less effective in those relationships because you were no longer fully present, no longer using the fullness of your potential. You were beginning to build up around yourself energized thought structures that imprisoned you. You were drawn by simple gravitational attraction to those realms of space where energy was in the process of being bonded, where matter was being created. Particles of physical substance began to gather along the magnetic lines of your thought structures, and you began to identify with denser and denser levels of physical expression. This process went on for a long while before you actually found yourself in any kind of physical garden. When you did, you had already fallen a long way from your original state of grace, but you were still functioning on a level of awareness far enough above and beyond your present condition to give rise to all the myths and legends of a physical paradise. The physical Garden of Eden lasted for many centuries of Earth time before the momentum of the materializing processes caused you to rely so much upon the physical senses that you became cut off from the direct nourishment of divine light. In reality, you have never been cut off from this nourishment, but as your sense of identity became almost exclusively wedded to your physical bodies, their growing density began demanding more and more earth substance for their support. You finally reached a point where you could no longer meet the demands of your physical bodies without work. It is at this point that your chronicles state that you were driven from the garden. In truth, you were never driven from the garden or anywhere else. The garden is still there, surrounding you even now. You have simply ceased to be aware of its presence. Language is only capable of communicating on one level at a time, yet the fall was a simultaneous, multi-leveled occurrence. While you were clothing yourself with increasing layers of material identification, you were also becoming more and more fragmented within yourself. As you began to bring into your relationships a sense of identity based on previous relationships, you were not only lessening your own presence and effectiveness in current relationships, you were also creating separation within yourself. None of your past experiences were comprehensive enough to fully identify with in the present moment, yet you began to rely on them for your understanding of and approach to the present moment. Thus, the whole process of the fall was accompanied by a corresponding fragmentation of your sense of identity, your very sense of self. By the time of the physical Garden of Eden, you were already perceiving yourself to be more than one. The sexual process came into play in order to produce physical projections within which these apparently separate entities you had split yourself into could take form. Even to this day, these apparently separate beings are but your own fragmented reflections. In the fallen state, you perceive them as separate and distinct. Yet, despite all this talk of a fall and original sin, etc., you are not held prisoner by events that transpired in the dim reaches of your collective memory. You are not born into sin. You are born daily into the presence of God, yet daily you reenact the original foolishness that is recorded in all your ancient chronicles. Daily you commit original sin. Daily you eat of the forbidden fruit, and it is from moment to moment that you keep yourself imprisoned by allowing a dubious rational thought process to come between you and your immediate sensing of God's will. This was the hesitation that led to your initial fall from grace, and it is the same hesitation that keeps you now in a fallen state. There should rightly be no interval between the determination of the need to take action and the implementation of that action. This rational interference is what caused you to stumble in your primal dance of trust with God. You are now, in effect, sleeping under the influence of what could almost be seen as a spell, an illusion that prevents you from experiencing the clarity of perception that is your natural birthright. Our mission to this planet is to awaken you from sleep by whatever means necessary, and so it shall be. As I speak of these things, I speak often as if we were separate, for in your illusion, you would have it be so. But I tell you, there is only one. Therefore it must be you, must it not? Yet you dream still in the spell of matter. Do not allow matter to dictate your future any longer. Go gently in these last days of unconsciousness. I suggest you listen to that sentence again. Listen to the voices among your dreams. Listen to the whisperings within your heart. We speak of a new way of being which is as old as creation itself. We speak of a new reality which is, nothing more and nothing less. Then, now, or ever shall be. Does this not make sense to you? Somewhere under all your conceptions and rational convictions, is there not a child at sleep? There is a part of you that lies like a thin wisp of certainty, a forgotten shred of simplicity, behind all your sorrow and beyond all your confusion. Be still for a moment. Just be still. Let it expand and fill you with yourself. You know these things in your heart. As I speak, you are beginning to remember the earth as you approach. You can feel her wrap you in her matter. Are your life forms not sufficiently prepared now to receive the blessing definitions that will terminate their larval period? You have told them to multiply and fill the earth, and behold, they walk the entire face of the planet and dominate every habitable landscape. As I look out across the sleeping sea of humanity, and I whisper these words into the silence of your mind, I know that I address a great being sleeping still in ignorance of itself, its wondrous self. I know that if the wild winter winds of your communication system send tatters or fragments of these messages echoing in the darkness, it will still be to the unconscious that I speak. But not much longer, dear ones, not much longer. For the conscious have seen the sky start to brighten in the east, and have felt the warming spring of eternal life begin to thaw the hardness of their preconceptions. The time is at hand to accept the understanding. Forget all but the song I am singing in your soul. Be in this moment here with me, open to the life that I am. I bring the burning fire of purification, information, revelation, open to all that you are. I bring the enunciation of your birth. It could be now, this very moment. Let everything that you imagine yourself to be drift to a state of rest, and feel me rise up within. I am rising, you know, like a spring, from the depth of your being, my being, and we are one. But you must come into the realization, and I can only tell you how it is. The potential of this universe is limitless. Her revelations of potential are infinite beyond number. But there are no Star Wars or advanced and fearsome civilizations beyond your own. Because if civilizations are fearsome, they do not advance beyond your own. They simply become extinct, to rise up in the soils of another world, a little wiser, until they learn. Our task today is to help you remove the blinders that historically have distorted your perception. Realize that what you feel in your heart determines what you see. Perception rides upon the expressions of the heart like a canoe rides upon the river. When your heart expresses fear in any of its turbulent forms, your understanding becomes jumbled, confused. You perceive through the waves of illusion. But when you love, you understand, for then you share the vision, the very perception of God. You are going to have to return, like the salmon, to the place of your origin. You must begin to birth your moments of experience only in love. You can root your life in fear and know the predictability of granite, the strength of marble, and what security there is in limestone's patient changing. Or you can root your life in love and join us in helping to ease the human world through awesome changes of these times. What is called by the native Indians as the Great Day of Purification has begun. This is a relatively short but most essential cycle of division that will gather those who promote fear and violence and separate them from this season of the world, as chaff is separated from wheat at threshing. During these current decades, humankind will experience this separation. It is now well underway. This will be a transformation in human consciousness, more fundamental than the development of language, more significant than the shift to agriculture, more meaningful than any historical revolution. Consider it as you would perceive a dawn. As the sun rises, the shadows become sharper and more clearly defined. As the energies of love grow stronger, the shadows of fear become more visible than before. To some it may even appear that they have grown in number and in strength, but this is not so. What was hidden has simply become revealed, that it might be healed and brought to peace. Action born from fear is becoming less effective with each passing day. Institutions, traditions, and societies forged in fear have already begun to falter. Change is occurring everywhere, for as the planetary awakening proceeds, the consciousness that determines the quality and nature of life is itself changing. Further, once man knows truth, he cannot again return to unknowing. He may well turn away, but he will never return to the state of innocent ignorance. Amidst all these changes, more and more people are again turning to God for guidance and direction. Unfortunately, they go first to ones of earth who reinforce first the lies. However, as ones begin to seek more deeply in the quest for inner knowledge, they finally come into truth. They are coming to dwell in the place of their own inner spirits, and to recognize their spirits as expressions of the God they seek from outside selves. God asks only to be trusted in the human heart. He seeks no temples of stone or gold inlays, only the silent, loving comfort of his own temple within. That is when the awakening takes place. The Creator asks not to be worshipped in an external image, but to be acknowledged in each human being. You are all God beings in potential with no reason not to become God as the reality within. Trust yourself. Trust your natural response to each new situation. The action arising from within your heart is not going to be destructive. It is going to suggest the most creative path to walk in answer to your situation and your world. When you trust yourself, you're trusting in the wisdom that designed you. This is how you trust in God. It is not an abstract thing. Trusting in God is trusting in the God who lives within you, trusting in your spirit's ability to respond to each situation beautifully, individually, creatively, and impeccably. When you doubt your native ability to breathe the air of spirit into your world and create according to your divine thought, you are doubting both God and the universe. You are rejecting life's most precious gift to you, your own inner knowing, and you are presuming to replace it with values, judgments, and opinions you have acquired secondhand. Without the acquisition of another skill, without the acquisition of anything but complete and total trust in God and in self, you have everything you need to interact optimally, creatively, and productively with every situation you encounter. There are no exceptions. Perhaps as much as 80% of your current typical behavior is exactly what you would do in a fully awakened state. Accept yourself. Feel clear about all you do. As you do this, you begin to introduce into your actions the very power of the Creator. There is a movement of spirit that proceeds from within your heart to greet the world with the clarity of perfect action. That movement is intuitive. It is your direct link with the source of all life. In the instant you know what to do, and in that same instant you know what to do, you flow into the perfect action required. Trust your intuition. It is an arrow whose shaft has been carved straight and smooth. Unerring and true, it flies to its mark. Can the ponderous tread of the rational mind be compared to the swift, sure flight of, say, an arrow? Reason is designed to support, not to lead your action. It is meant to help you implement the purposes of your heart. It is not meant to determine them. Trust in God by giving honor unto and trusting your intuitive sense. No God would create a creature without the wisdom to chart its course. Trust the nature of your design. God's actions appear within your awareness as the most natural thing for you to do. Following them will reconnect you with the awesome powers of the universe. for all your actions will then be in harmony with the underlying intent of the life force itself. Pouring forth from the heart of the Nagyual, the region of being, the infinity of God, the nameless void, are powerful streams of energy which we of the higher relations channel into the emotional field around the earth. These energies are designed for creation, but when they meet with disharmony, as is the case with your present-day human world, they translate into energies of healing, forgiveness, and education. We can direct these energies in a general sense, but before they can reach full power, they must be consciously directed by people who are awake and incarnate on Earth, hence the need for you ones in the physical form. Only then do they enter the realms of specific application that will release their fullness. And during the remainder of this cycle, complete the healing of your race. You are being invited to open your heart and make a welcome for these immense creative energies. You are being invited to help direct the powers of the eternal. There are two requirements. The first is that your heart be open, loving, and able to channel, at least to some degree, the love of God. The second requirement is that your identity be fully in the present moment. If your identity is based in your past experiences or thrust forth into the what-ifs of the perceived future, you are not truly present. What looks through your eyes is then only a fictitious creature, an image, an illusion. Too much thinking about oneself is the greatest thing that keeps human identity from being fully present, for when you are constantly self-reflecting, you are too caught up in past and future to notice the presence around you. You are doubting your own power, whether or not you realize such. You are not vibrating fast enough to channel the immense energies of creation because your attention is scattered, and you are closed to the one moment where the love that would quicken you exists, the moment where you are. Certainly there is nothing wrong with human individuality. It is as necessary to God as, say, leaves are to a tree. But you have made a god of leaves and have forgotten the tree at the source of life. If you truly wish to channel God's blessings, then begin thinking of yourself less as an isolated self and more as one of a tribe. You are all of human society. You are the world, and all within it. When you relax into perception of other as self, when you think of yourself as the pair of eyes into which you look, when you care about those around you as much as you once cared about yourself, then the energies of healing and transformation are able to flow freely through you. Your eyes, your ears, your every sense is attuned to the richness of the surrounding world. All your senses are operating at a rapid enough level of perception, correction, and decision-making to keep up with the energies pouring into your heart from the Great Spirit, who comes to fill the needs of the world through you. Dear ones, the facts are that love vibrates very, very rapidly. Those who channel fearful energies find that as time passes, the fear vibration drains enthusiasm, energy, perception, and interest. And that is what your world needs in this current age. Your love and your perception clearly manifest. This is that which will heal the world. Clear and undistorted perception, flowing through a you that is not self-reflective in the egoic sense, but self-reflective in the sense of knowing the God within. The self to reflect on is the self that you truly are, the Creator, the Eternal One, the Spirit of God. You reflect on those aspects of the Great Spirit that manifest before you, as the men, the women, the children, the plants, the animals, the crystals, the other minerals, the creatures of the world, entrusted to your care. First and foremost, you are a steward of your immediate world. You care for the earth, not in some nebulous way, but directly as an individual representative of God. You take responsibility for bringing love and understanding into every environment through which you pass. You effort to leave balance and harmony in your passing. As the birds welcome the morning with song, when you act totally in love, you welcome God, the Great Spirit, into your world. You become a conscious cell in the awakening earth. The physical atoms of your body sing together, vibrating in harmony. Your integrity and unity of being, your integration of purpose and expression brings resonance to everything you are, and to everything you perceive, and thusly to everything with which you interchange. You become a natural channel for the vast and powerful energies of creation. Through you they flow into the healing and transformative work of these decades, pulsing with the atoms of your body physical, pulsing in perfect rhythm with the world around you. You know yourself as a localized expression of your own universal being. You know your first self as the attachment of the Great Spirit, awakening within the human populations of the earth during this time of cycling. And as a child of the natural world, you know your second self as an individual human being within those populations, manifest and functioning within that manifestation. As one who has awakened to the energy, your eyes behold the world around you as the divine world within, and you know you are, inside. You, the fragment of Creator, and the world are one in the same in the ending. You are but a reflection of the totality. You are awake. Just as are bees in communication with the spirit of their hive, you know in an instant all that is transpiring throughout the field of collective human consciousness. Your biosphere is active and alive. From the collective field of your larger awareness of the earth, you are then able to instantaneously access the knowledge you need in the moment. You use your individual free will to pursue God's will, and you know God's will is your own. Your identity rides the crest of unity's wave at the very meeting place of Creator and creation. You become immersed in universal currents of flowing love. You are free. The Great Spirit's own consciousness flows freely into and through your heart and perceives all through you. This is the sight to the innocent to see through the eyes of God. It was preordained that creation would exist within a rhythm of expansion and contraction since the first breath of God at the beginning of all the worlds. Eventually, there would come a time when the physical universe would stop expanding and begin to contract. The process is referred to by some as the breathing in and the breathing out of God. The action of breathing out all creation and then breathing it all back in again. It is a good concept for all flows and cycles of flowing out and flowing back again to source. At this point in what we refer to as linear time, you are very close to the middle of the cycle, soon to reach the exact midpoint between the out-breath and the in-breath of God. The universe began to reach this midpoint when unicellular organisms were emerging on the earth. The exact midpoint is at hand, but not yet fully attained. It will coincide with what has come to be called the second coming of Christ. Don't get hung up on terminology, for this is only a definitive term for reference. When any vibrational system reverses the momentum of its direction, as a pendulum does at the uppermost point of its swing, there is a moment of complete rest before it resumes its movement in the opposite direction. Since rest or the total cessation of movement constitutes the opposite of time, there is at the precise moment of its occurrence a micro-interval of non-time, a moment of eternity. This is the same interval of non-time that occurs many times every second as the atoms of the physical world vibrate back and forth. This is an opening into the Nagwal, a doorway into the presence from which all life energy springs. What happens when an entire cosmos reaches the exact point of directional change and comes to a moment of absolute rest? You will have the opportunity to see for yourself very soon now, for this event lies just before you in linear time, and that is why you have returned, to bear witness. It will provide an opening for the emerging of something incomprehensible. The entire biological history of your planet has been but the shadow cast in matter by your approach, so to speak. It is the way that rocks and water and air have begun to respond to your presence, for you represent life itself. You are that which lies beyond all duality, beyond all materializing tendencies, beyond all restraints of time and space. Your consciousness is both infinite and eternal. It can dwell in the limitations of matter and perceive through whatever filtering systems you so choose. But in healthy function, it is not bound or limited by those systems. Rather, it uses them as instruments of perception, exploration, and adventure. Outside of time and space, you are one with the Creator, the all that is, the Source. But when your consciousness moves within the context of a manifest universe, you become the Son, the Christ. In essence, you are the relationship between spirit and matter, the mediator, the bridge, the means through which the Creator relates to creation. You are life as it relates to planet Earth, eternity as it relates to time, the infinite as it relates to the finite. Though you presently experience yourself as a separate and fragmented species, you are in fact a single unified being, sharing the full consciousness of the Creator. You are brought into living, focused expression when you are inside of creation by the manner in which time and space, matter and energy, sea and stone react to your presence. As the Christ, as the only begotten consciousness of the Father, you have been given a number of remarkable qualities. You are able to expand and contract in accordance with the focus of your attention. You are large enough to encompass all of creation, yet small enough to climb inside. Your Father Creator also permeates creation, but in a different way. In His vastness, He surrounds creation. His being saturates the physical universe, all the stars, the sun, the planets in your solar system, the distant galaxies, but He relies on you for His focus. You are His specific attention. As the focus of the Creator's attention, you have been roaming around inside of creation for billions of years, expanding and contracting, drifting in and out of this galaxy, this star system, that star system. Everywhere you go, you see the matter that your Father has created. You observe the many wonderful forms it takes, the mighty suns, the red giants, the white dwarfs, the vast spiraling galaxies, the quasars, the black holes, the white holes, the whole. You watch the incredible contortions of time and space that take place in the various gravitational fields through which you pass. You note the planets, asteroids, moons, and comets circling within each star system you visit. You drift around, the Father's representative, the Father's attention, and you enjoy the worlds that have been brought into being. But all these worlds are physical. They are all made of matter. They are made of the bonded energy attention of the Father. They have a certain substance, a certain solidity that you as spirit lack. You realize that this is their limitation. You realize that they are defined and specified in ways that you are not defined and specified. Yet something about them certainly intrigues you. By and by, you get an idea. You begin to wonder if you might not just possibly somehow or another clothe yourself in matter and construct for yourself a physical body that you could then travel around in, perceiving matter from the same perspective with which matter perceives herself. The idea contains one paradox after another, yet something about it keeps you wondering. It puzzles you, and you all love puzzles at which to toy and tinker away. You just keep right on mulling it over as the eons roll by, figuring out some way to make it work. Until this point, there was no biological life in the universe. The rocks had a limited consciousness, but it was not responsive to the intent of your spirit. In solid, liquid, or gaseous states, matter as created and defined by your Father behaved quite predictably, according to fundamental physical principles, untampered with until that time. Throughout your travels in the physical universe, you had always kept your consciousness separate from the matter you observed. At the time you hit upon this plan, however, all that changed. You looked around until you found a suitable planet for what you had in mind. Not too hot, not too cold, situated within a stable young star system. You then focused your attention and your vibrational body in an entirely new way, an open way, a self-sacrificing way, a very powerful, loving way. Gently, slowly, you began to approach the planet. As the outermost edges of your vibrational field touched the waters of the planet, particles of previously inert matter began to gently vibrate to the rhythms of your being, aligning themselves with the energy patterns found on the periphery of your awareness. There, on the Precambrian ocean floors, they began combining to form the first cells, the first minute containers for your consciousness to meet the demands of your experience. In your new orientation with your new form of attention, in a gesture of infinite love to this planet, you began offering your consciousness on the time-space cross of material reality. You allowed your consciousness to clothe itself in the limitations of physical substance, accepting its restrictions. You allowed the atoms and molecules that were forming the first cells to come to life with your consciousness along the lines of your own vibrational field. At the same time that you allowed your consciousness to become clothed with particles that had been subject to the laws of the materializing process, you taught the matter of Earth to rise up in a joyful dance with your spirit. As you drew ever nearer to the planet, the life forms that were taking shape began to contain more and more of your own awareness. You relaxed, opened yourself, and gave. You procreated the Earth with your life, with your very being. You looked out of many eyes and heard with many ears, and before embodiment you were single. You drew identity from the totality of the relationship between Creator and creation. You were the Christ, fully conscious and alert, aware of yourself, unified, integrated. You realized that to accomplish embodiment you would have to allow at least a portion of your identity to come to rest among the creatures you were birthing. Each of these would possess a type of hologrammatic consciousness that rightly thought of itself as both part and whole simultaneously. However, the presence of this consciousness could only be a certainty after the embodiment process was complete. During your actual surfacing through the substance of Earth, there was a possibility that certain creatures might become self-active. Therefore, there had to be a means of regulating your disintegration from without. You wanted a part of you observing and experiencing the entire process. As you prepared to enter into the planetary relationship, you created beings to represent your original state of unified awareness. These are the angels, dear ones. Their value, as well as their limitation, springs from the fact that they have no comprehension of the process you are undertaking. Their instructions were to pretty much stay out of things until very near the very end of the process. Then, upon receipt of a prearranged signal, they were to commune with the human beings on Earth at that time and assist them in awakening to their original state of unified consciousness. Hence we come as the alarm clocks, and we received that signal some 2,000 of your years past. It has taken almost 2 millennia to prepare you for the message we bring. You had to be educated before communion of this nature was possible. However, the time is at hand. Our instructions are to awaken you to a remembrance of purpose, a remembrance of self. It is time to begin the final cycle of conscious creation, during which the Earth creatures themselves participate in the unfoldment of their design. The body you are creating for the habitation of Christ consciousness is to be a mobile body, fueled by creative intentions of the Father, capable upon completion of leaving the Mother's side. There must always come a point where the lies can no longer be accepted, and the masses can see beyond the veils and charades, and into truth. There must always reach a point wherein truth is visible as the sore thumb, sticking out in a crowd, unmistakable in its obvious presence. There must come a point where change is not only feasible but demanded by the masses, in conscious unity. You are just about to that point, little ones, and now, the word can go forth, and it will fill the vacant voids left unfilled by organized, indoctrinated religious clubs, politics, government, military, and most of all, the separation of man from God by all manner of heinous lies. and false teachings. You are now ready to hear truth, and know that which you hear bears the truth of God and creation. You shall then be able to hear, and in time, organize your actions into inner understanding which will then be brought without, and you can begin to function in unity of purpose, to reclaim that freedom and truth taken from you through ignorance on our part, and evil intent on the part of the perpetrators of the lies. It is the time of coming again into truth. We have had much contact with your government officials, especially in the years of the very end of the 1980s. They did not allow you ones to know of the contact, nor of the presence, and have continued to cover up the relationships established, and have continued to act in defiance of God's laws, and further unbalance the creation's organized harmony upon your planet. The ones in placement among the controllers are nonetheless critical enough in the maintenance of your social systems to ensure that the world will make some incredible leaps in consciousness during these years. The majority do not have room within their belief structures to accommodate such a grand being as an angel or extraterrestrial, so they respond to our influence as if it were coming from themselves. They feel good, they feel clear, they feel the changes in the air. They wake up a little, throw off some of their defense mechanisms, and bring a newer and fresher perspective into each situation where the point is critical. This is, however, why the thrust into violence and conditioning of the masses into violent and deviant behavior has been speeded up to incredible extent. There are many major factions on a headlong collision course, and the explosion shall indeed be great. Consciously or unconsciously, the ones we contact and touch, who can accept possibilities of perception changes, begin to more thoroughly accommodate the flow of spirit. At times they change radically and attribute their transformation to this or that mechanism. We simply enjoy the experience. We do not care how the change comes about, as long as it does come. Those who are not yet sensitive enough to sense our presence feel us as a high, as clarity, or as peace. All we touch are changed in some way. Even in the unknowing, the touch is something to leave one changed forever. If it seems to these people that the changes originate within themselves, this is all the better, for in fact, they do. We do not bring the presence of God that already exists everywhere. We assist in the removal of conceptual and emotional blocks that prevent the full experience of that presence. We work with all who are sympathetic, simple and sincere people, who feel our spirit moving, but for the most part, only within the context of their current belief system to allow growth into change, without shock to the system's learned patterns. Through communications such as these, we are forging more concise conceptual tools that these individuals and others can use to free themselves. Often, these tools are still too conceptual for the message they contain, but they are useful at this time in loosening the bars of the conceptual prisons in which so many individuals still function. If you found yourself in hell, it might be appropriate to grab a pitchfork and fight your way out. In a sense, this is the nature of our conceptual work. Once out of hell, you would no doubt set the pitchfork aside, for the tool would only be a further burden to be carried about. These concepts that we are providing at this time are strictly transitional, to be used only until such times as you no longer need them. Their ultimate purpose is the dissolution of subjective thinking. We give them freely to assist your race in releasing itself from the spell of fear and reason. Reason is a beautiful and useful process when it springs from the right premise. But the right premise is seldom the starting point for fearful creatures caught in a net of subjectivity. Only when reason is returned to its proper place in the spiritual structure of true intelligence, and used wisely in the consciousness of the Christ, will it once more begin to serve the needs of the whole. There is only one spirit, but there is no limit to the number of forms through which this spirit can express. For the moment, these forms seem important, and they are, insofar as their contribution to the whole is concerned. But as the years go by, The range of their differentiation will become of much less consequence to individuals who are sincerely offering their lives as channels through which the Spirit can work. As life is able to express through such individuals with increasing ease, they will begin to recognize each other as differentiations of the same Spirit. Such individuals could be compared to conscious nerve endings of God in matter, channeling the life flow of Christ awareness into each and every cell of the planetary being. Surprisingly enough to you, who cannot understand, by the time of the 1980s revelations, knowledge of our existence and our work was widespread, especially among the younger generation, the prime focus of our efforts at that time. Although awareness of our presence is not necessary to our work, it does facilitate the transfer of information. Many thousands were consciously working with us, and many more were not in conscious realization of that which prompted them into various actions. Many of the youth could not adjust to the contradictions of lies and truth, poor example and empty words, and thus and so, and many committed suicide in order to fulfill their mission to awaken those left in the physical form. Never judge another's actions, for you have no way to know the contract with God of another. Most of you do not even know your own contract with God and self. I suggest you get those circuits clear, dear friends. Great portents of change are in the air. Your physicists are speaking of these things in terms that defy explanation. Your psychologists are abandoning the sinking ships of conventional rationality. Your religions are exploding beyond the confines of their dogma, in the rediscovery of spirit. It is all here in the present moment but unrecognized as ones cling to the old, and final efforts are being thrust against you to pull you down. You are in that projected future shock. Open your mind to possibility. Open your eyes and see what is around you. There is a new pattern descending upon your planet. Tune into it and learn an effective way of dealing with the closing years of this phase of historical experience. You are being offered an opportunity to enter a new reality, a new creation, set forth by your own training and by your own hand, cleared of the errors of past experience, and overflowing with the abundance of perfect creation. You created this world and what you perceive in it. To overcome the negative impact, you must come back into recognition of that which you are. Just as you created that which you are now experiencing, you shall have to create the mode to overcome and grow above and beyond. You are headed for a day very soon now wherein there will only be reality to witness. Those who tune into the new frequencies and patterns will find life growing more wondrous every day. Those who tune into fear will find things falling apart. Two worlds of consciousness will begin to form ever more distinctly, the world of love and life, and the world of fear and death. There will continue to be some overlap of these worlds for several of what you call years to come, some going back and forth for certain individuals, but the polarization will continue to intensify. The moment of birth will also be the moment of last judgment, the moment of final separation. So what about final separation? There will be better times for some and worse for others, depending on their orientation and involvement. Fortunately, the natural tendency of your species is to gravitate toward love and life, for therein lies truth, innately awaiting surfacing. For the vast majority, the times ahead will be better than they expect. For beyond the conscious facade, most ones at this time do not look forward with joy to anything. Some of the worst scenarios have already been rendered impossible, except in a few isolated pockets, where the new energies will not enter until later. The momentum of positive change is actually being felt everywhere. Remember that which you are shown and told is not truth, and therefore you must feel isolated and among the minority. There are more of your brothers around than the conspirators would allow you to know. Their downfall is assured, as you ones awaken into truth and take your power. The coming age will be a time of incredible blessing as the transition moves along. There will be a restoration of ecological balance, etc. But you can expect these things to deteriorate in the immediate experience. for change only comes after the swing into negativity reaches a peak. As you move past the negative impact, you will move into a transition of both existence and perception, and for this, a remnant must survive to make the journey. Humankind will come to peace and harmony can prevail. Planetary resources will be realistically understood and properly utilized. It will be a time of revelation, during which the mind and plans of the Creator will be made clear for all to see. It will be the time when the final stage of incarnation becomes fully manifest in form, when Spirit, working through a fully awakened and responsive humanity, constructs for itself a mobile physical body. Human individuals will not function in such cumbersome fashion as they do today. They will go about their tasks with the grace of dancers, performing to a music that each will hear on his or her own frequency of soul. Through these melodies in harmony, God will sustain each of his contextual identities in supreme fulfillment. Specific melodies will change with each environment, with each moment, with each task. Yet a consistent overall pattern of relationship will constitute the new identity of mankind. Yours is not a tame God to be confined in reverent concepts, but a vibrant, playful energy, the very soul and spirit of life. He comes to earth not to be somber and devout, but to dance, sing, and enjoy that which he has created. Do not allow the gravity of your planet to weigh upon your consciousness. You have been aware of the effect of gravity on material objects, but it has only been recently, in your outer travels, that you have begun to realize that that which holds you to the physical and enslaves you to the physical binds and limits consciousness as well. You have been misled and brought down by the very physical concepts which are set forth to entrap you into the false path of a destiny of separation. You will find that the physical is only a mockery of the delights and experiences of spirit in consciousness. Do you remember when you were but small children and the world seemed fun and exciting? Be like those little children again in your anticipation and curiosity for truth. Come play with us in the wonderland of matter. It is long years that you have dreamed of your entry into these realms. Your dream has come true, and you fail to see of it. Wake up and see where you are. If the world sees the happy exuberance of the awakening Creator shining in your eyes and thinks that it is irresponsible in light of this or that growing crisis, patiently explain to them what is happening. Remind them of how it has to be to reach beyond. Tell them something of the new perspective. Show them the possibilities in taking control and power for self. Do not present yourself as a silly clown, but come into the joy within your own presence in the moment of your being. Tell them what you are experiencing and what they might experience too, and what together you might change and accomplish to reverse the negativity upon your wondrous placement. Allow others to see that peace and serenity are not yours alone, but the reflection in your life of a being who will always be at his greatest ease. Do not put on a facade of pious foolish appearance. Be self, and be at peace. Do not allow this preview of that which is to come distract you from the work that lies ahead. Do not store the specifics of this vision in your mind, and then expound upon them with rational extrapolations. Feel the spirit of all that we have been sharing. Embody it practically in your daily living. The vision is real, beloved friends, but there are necessary steps to occur before what is already done in spirit becomes likewise accomplished on the physical earth. You are the means of those steps, the mechanism that the Lord has designed to implement his will in the realm of form. In the stillness of your innermost being, contact him. Gain his clarity, purpose, and direction. When you have received instructions and discovered your area of service, go forth and do what needs to be done. We are prepared to join in conscious communion, those members of your species who have experienced psychological death and rebirth. Before our help can materialize, however, there must be more openings on human levels. We are unable to commune with humans whose vibrational fields are distorted by ego factors. emotional reactions, excessive conceptualization, or past-future orientation. In such cases, our presence would force their vibrational patterns into alignment with ours, robbing them prematurely of a portion of their own identity. We are only able to work with those who are consciously aware of who they are and what they are doing. With these, union becomes simply reunion. Be patient with your brothers and sisters, for they have long been falsely taught. It is only critical that you remember your origin and purpose, and the rest shall follow in the proper sequence of events. Your descent into matter has almost reached its low point. If all with which you identify is not to be annihilated in entropic collapse, you must begin waking up and begin living. You have been dead to the most important part of yourself all these years of your history, but your time in the sarcophagus is complete. You shall no more be consumed in the fires of faithlessness. Arise then from the ashes of ignorance. Put aside the incubation and rejoin the cosmic brotherhood. The time of separation has come. There are but two roads before you. You can walk in the innocence of those who trust in the source, or perish in the impending collapse of your rational systems. You must walk before you can fly, and the choice, as it always has been, is yours alone. Everything that you need exists in this present moment, and this moment is all that exists. In its brief flicker, you will find all the time in the world. Through it, you will contact the living information that will guide you with infallible direction. It is through this present moment that you will leave the prison of human definition and expand into an awareness of divine perception. It is the crack between the worlds, not only the worlds of past and future, but worlds of time and space, spirit and matter, form and being. It is a timeless zone, the gateway through which you will again begin to participate in the adventure of creation. As we begin, so do we end, for there is neither beginning nor ending in reality, only that which is. Do not subscribe to the passing illusions of this age. Do not blindly follow the archaic warrior programming that leaves you unconscious, an automaton, a puppet controlled by those who have for centuries made it their business to map and chart the currents of the fear that now entraps you. Realize your choices and your ability of creation. Should you feel a habit of violent reaction, whether in thought, word, or deed, realize that it is only yourself with whom you strive. Do not contend so anxiously with yourself. There is only one of you here shadowboxing on the wall. Defend yourself from this alone, the programming of unconscious fears. The essence of intelligence is this: it is always to your advantage to cooperate, rather than to retaliate. These are not others that you perceive as foes, but those of self-reflected back from the mirror. It is better to allow them to become your friends and partners in the healing and educational work of these times. But you must learn to stand strong in the presence of those who would refuse decision and play upon your very weakest fiber. Do not be so foolish as to allow that which would destroy you and/or our work within. Remember, example, ones of your species will be watching that which you do, not so much that which you say. So be it. If a man is not with us, he must be accepted as being against us, and we must keep from the distraction, for, after all, that is all it is about, his need for ego gratification as you place God in lower rank, thus negating your own truth and value. Ponder it gently but carefully, dear ones. Allow us to remain within grace, that our way is made clear and step strong and without faltering. May we give strength unto our brother, that we can come again into the oneness of the source, in glory and beauty, unscathed by the experience, and into the total light of perfection. Amen. We of the hosts, the winged tribes, arrive in this age not just to materialize, but to literally walk among you, as we clear the path for the godly presence. We are coming back at this time on a wave of light, a pulsation of new intensity. We have the ability to materialize through drawing atoms and molecules into our light fields. But it is not for this that we are here. We are looking for biological incarnations in the specific human beings, whose present bodies have grown from fetuses that have unfolded along the vibrational patterns of our light. It is we who designed your human bodies, but you have grown up in a civilization that denies both our presence and our reality. And so we breathe in you again and again, each breath fuller than the breath before, each pulsation brighter, each new communication clearer, penetrating further into your understanding. Let us awaken you, we who have formed you in the womb, we who have called you from the tomb of sleeping matter. You whose physical circuitry mirrors our being, welcome us into your consciousness. When you experience our spirit presence, you know yourself in the image of that which God holds for you, the image of perfection in which God has created you. God's living image of you reflects God. It does not rest frozen like a photograph in a frame. The perfect images in which God holds each human being are alive and changing, flowing, fluid images. One day a servant, the next a lover, the next a sister, a brother, a spouse, a teacher, or a friend. All the aforementioned are one and the same as you meditate upon it. We understand God's images for humanity, for that is what we are. We are individualized living images of God, designed to draw more than just your physical bodies into our energy patterns. We are designed to blend with your consciousness, with your understanding, and with the field of your emotional expression. We are here in the atmosphere of your consciousness, to draw you into clear and accurate perception, that together in cooperative harmony, we might commence a new cycle of creation. We come to the earth to blend with you in the communion that will give birth to the Creator in time. We work with whatever forms of understanding you allow us to animate. Our love has called up out of the earth the bodies of your race. Feel that love and know your spirit. We offer you more than words, we offer ourselves. O children, we have lived and died in so many of you, and we live in you again and again. Your fearful human generations are like waves of cold seawater or a mountain stream, splashing on our warm, eternal shores. You can keep being afraid and receding with each cold wave to experience again and yet again. Or you can begin to watch the waves of your generation's fears, the waves and pulses of your society's illusions, the waves of emotional control, and realize that you are not the waves. The humanly defined world is constantly in change. It has its momentary drama, a wave of emotional turmoil that seems to have the ability to put fear into the hearts of ones more than ever before. But no matter how wild and turbulent the waves of your culture's gods become during these last days, before such illusions vanish, be not the waves of fear, nor influenced by them. The birds have always floated on the surface of such waves. Storms have crashed armadas, sunk galleons, and watched angry warriors perish beneath their fury. Ever the birds have floated undisturbed above the wreckage, above the turbulence, above the waves, gentle, serene. We are the bird tribes returning to assist our fledglings. We are the rebirth of the symbol of God's freedom and renewal, the Quetzal, the phoenix. We are the colors of the rainbow and the wondrous pulse of the waves of energy throughout the cosmos. We are the hosts to welcome you back into the house of God. Times need not be troublesome for you humans of this closing age, for wherever there is just one that does not succumb to the emotional undercurrents of fear that would herd you like sheep into some collective folly, there radiates an influence of peace, stability, healing, and blessing. God will amplify the influence of that one, and blend it with the influence of others who are incarnate and doing of the same. Through these will pour the peace and understanding, as well as the strength of direction. No sea shall rise against them. We are come to calm the troubled waters of collective emotional storms, to walk upon them in our understanding, to bring the ways of love to a human world manifest, tossing still in a troubled sea of illusion and disillusion. We bring the lamp of peace that comes from trust in God and truth of God's laws, and balance with total harmony within the creation. We bring the torch of wisdom that resolves human differences through commerce, communication, forgiveness, honesty. Loving our enemies, we have no enemies nor anything to fear. Our torchlights beckon from above the waves of human turbulence from the realms of God perfection to bear His truth, and that of the creation, unto a people who have forgotten. The consciousness of the Eternal One shines forth from each light we bear. Those who struggle and clutch at wreckage in the turbulence below cannot harm us or our kind. They can only become us in time, dear ones. For it is from them, from such raw material, that the egos of our universal species are drawn. Do not subscribe to the passing illusions of this age. Do not blindly follow the archaic warrior programming that leaves you unconscious. An automaton, a puppet, controlled by those who have for centuries made it their business to map and chart the currents of fear. Realize your choices. Should you feel a habit of violent reaction, whether in thought, word, or deed, realize that it is only yourself with whom you strive. Do not contend so anxiously with yourself. There is only one of you here shadowboxing on the wall. Defend yourself from this alone, the programming of unconscious fears. Every time a human being reacts violently toward another being, instead of communicating in communion, that person is hurting him or herself. No more and no less. For you cannot hurt of another unless that other accepts thine abuse. The essence of intelligence is simply this. It is always to your advantage to cooperate rather than to retaliate, for you actually only retaliate upon self. These are not others that you perceive as foes, but those of your own household, your family. Let them become your friends and partners in the healing and educational work of these times. Do not take them or yourselves so seriously. With lightness in your heart and glory beneath your wings, rise above the waves of emotional concern that would draw you beneath their surface. Feel the love that is restructuring every human illusion. We come in this age to calm the waters of human emotional turbulence, that you might see in correctness of vision, direction, and truth your way in the path of light, and away from the abyss of dark passages. We have allowed the turbulence to swirl the waters this past, while to help the egos to learn, but the Creator has appointed an end to history, and we are the means of the calming. The water is calmed wherever we stand. We walk on the water in singing that you might hear and see. Pure water, a human heart in love. Clear water, the eyes of God all-seeing. Standing above the swirling seas of illusion, you see the radiant light of 10,000 other beings, such as yourself. Light beings, winged ones. The Ongwelhonwe, the Thunderbirds, the Wombly, returning. Your love for these sisters and brothers of old bursts from your heart. Rays of brilliant light shoot between you. 10,000 bridges of light connect your hearts as the bridge to and from infinity. And beneath luminous bridges the light falls joyously in laughter on the swirling seas. These waters too are calmed, the waters beneath the bridges, that none be lost to the whirlpools in the darkness. Up out of the angry seas others rise to join you. They leave behind their petty claims upon this, that, or the other moment. Into one larger moment they merge with you into one moment magnificent. They feel the network of light that engulfs the planet. They become a part of it. They awaken into the energy of the children of light. By your side they experience the teamwork and cooperation of the real peoples. Something is touching down upon your earth, something from the stars, beloved brethren. Something is landing upon the still waters of hearts that trust in God, speaking to the hearts of people who love. Each wave of time splashing upon the shores of memory brings another moment, another doorway, another opening, inviting the awakening children of the earth to feel the flutter of spirit in their consciousness, to feel the brush of angel wings, to allow the waters of their hearts to be still, and to live each moment with greater love, honesty, caring and compassion than ever before. So it is that the balance of the sacred hoop is restored, that sacred circle of infinity. Moment by moment, you become more incarnate. When you examine the nature of that pure essence of beauty behind the perfection of both masculine and feminine, you find God. Because at the source, at the core, at the heart of all that is feminine is God, and at the heart, at the core, at the source of all that is masculine is God. The same God, the One, the Great Spirit. Such is the nature of God. God is indescribably beautiful, indescribably wonderful, indescribably precious, powerful, gentle, real. God is these qualities to such a perfect extent that God's only challenge is to pursue description of such indescribable perfection. So the Great Spirit picks a place in the infinite ocean of space, draws a line, and calls it time. Then, making the first distinction, God says, "This line separates everything that happened before I drew this line from everything that happened after I drew this line." And God then takes all the qualities and potentialities of eternal being and places their centers on either one side of the line or the other. These qualities continue to pulsate on both sides of the great distinction. Their radiations permeate all that is. Nowhere is without them. But the centers from which they radiate are assigned places on either side of the great line. On one side of the line, God designs structures to identify specific locations in the sea of infinite being. Atoms, each an intention, a consciously created system for cultivating and regulating its particular field of space. On this side of the line that God calls time, bleeds through all that is feminine, material, actualized structure. Here lies all that is created, everything that exists, the stars and the planets. This is the tonal, the body of the Great Mother Universe, home of every star and every world. The other side of the line is the Nagual. Here remains all that will be created. Here are the patterns of new creation and the energy that will draw the new creation out of the infinite reservoir of eternal potential. From the designing intelligence of the One who is ever becoming revealed. Yet the line that God has drawn to define the sea of space is not a rigid, linear boundary. It is a living reality, spiraling like a thread in and out of the created realms. Around and around the circumference of every nameable thing it coils and spins, weaving a fine luminous cloth, the filmiest of screens, an invisible membrane. At each point where it touches the dimensional universe, incredible creation occurs. Stars are created, galaxies congeal, white holes appear, black holes, quasars, arching bows of stars. In a multitude of awesome ways, energy pulses through from the masculine side of the Great Spirit divide into the body of the Mother Universe. In this way, the purpose and the passion of the Creator are served. The entire universe becomes a joyous journey through love, an adventure, a challenge to describe the infinite wealth of invisible beauty, to give it texture, tone, and light to make it visible. Creatures of beauty come into form, not just isolated creatures of beauty, but creatures of beauty each living in a larger landscape of beauty, and not just landscapes alone. Landscapes resting within picture planets formed in spiraling systems of stars that are themselves set like living diamonds in a galaxy, floating among 100 billion more, giving each creature a background, each picture a frame, and all living art a context that accentuates what is most beautiful. Division into stellar and planetary polarities is the physical mechanism of this awesome creation, the manner in which the infinite potential of God in all its splendor is revealed. Stellar and planetary polarities are not opposites. They are complementary ends of a single vibrational continuum, ends of a unified spectrum that begin back to back at a common point on the great medicine wheel and then move apart. Each to complete nearly, but not quite, the full 180 degrees of their respective halves of the whole. Just short of meeting, they stop to face each other, 350 degrees of the wheel complete. They pause then, allowing the charge between them to build and grow, until there comes the spark of lightning that completes the full 360-degree circle of the medicine wheel in the illumination that there clothes you in biological form. There is design in both matter and energy, just as there is design encoded in the genetic structure of ovum and sperm. The design that enters the Earth's atmosphere on the rays of light from the nearest star calls to the potential of this material world. The stellar stream touches her deepest ocean dreams and sings lovingly to the longing in her soil. The information contained in the elemental forces of the Earth mingles with the spirit information of the solar wind. As feminine and masculine polarities of the Eternal One play together and interact in the biosphere. Sunlight impregnates the Earth. Solar sperm and ocean ovum mingle. The sun teaches the Earth his song, and the Earth teaches the sun hers. The sun tries to sing her song and laughs. The dance of projection and manifestation is joyously underway. The Earth tries to sing a sun song and creates blue sky, white clouds, and a world of scurrying creatures below to bestow as gifting upon the new creation. Our spirit information blends with the material information of soil, water, wind, and sky. The gestation of the terrestrial child is catalyzed. Creatures rise up on the spiraling winds of our vibrating love. Feeling our song, they live, breathe, and dance out the patterns of our interaction. Spinning in the wondrous beauty of starlight, the Earth learns a new image of herself. She releases her rock formations to flow into waving forests, grazing buffalo, sleeping reptiles, prancing deer in the sun. Particles of her matter are given wing and flutter and sing on the winds of solar spirit. The Earth releases who she is to become the life dancing upon her surface, flowing, ever flowing into the blossoming patterns of her potential. From the realms of higher vibration where forms are subtle and have no material density, the angels of the winged ones who move about the universe, the bird tribes, descend. We seek to discover how we might most effectively and creatively clothe ourselves and thereby the Creator's intentions in the matter of your world. We are ever vigilant, rising beneath the density of her structure, growing as the seasons pass and our love deepens, into forests waving in the wind, teeming children, animations of starfire clothed in the beautiful, feminine, crystalline latticework of the material plane. Communication between masculine and feminine aspect of the Great Spirit has been going on in this universe for billions of years. The creation that has appeared as a result of this dialogue has appeared on each vibrational frequency of manifestation in turn, with degrees of specificity and precision on each frequency directly related to the quality and clarity of the exchange among the embodied representative of male God and female God, who there come into being. Once they come into form, embodied representatives of God become the primary means of all future creation, on the frequencies where they appear. They are the specified, intelligent, and co-creative paintbrushes of the universal artist, living, participating art. It was long prophesied, even before the foundations of this material world upon which you now stand, that a day would come when the loving interaction of a planet and a star would bring into being autonomous, self-replicating, intelligent creatures, biological creatures, male and female, clothing the very image and likeness of the Creator Source. These would become not only our participants in this continuing process of divine unfoldment, but also henceforth the leading, cutting edge in all further physical plane creation. They would understand and embody the balance. They would comprehend the nuclear energy of stars as well as the geological formations of crystals in the heart of the mountains. They would understand organic chemistry, nuclear biology, astronomy, and all the sciences. They would be incarnate in bodies, physical forms that were beautiful to behold, graceful to see, living works of art in themselves, designed as biological control rooms, mind-brain planning centers for exploring and developing ways and means that the potential of this universe could continue to unfold. They would become the instruments through which all future biological creation would occur. On the level of the Earth, in this early 21st century of what you call your present age, There are biological creatures of female and male human form at either side of this profound interface between the masculine and feminine aspects of God. The same division between eternal unity that has the power to bring stars into existence 10,000 times the size of your sun. That same creative charge exists between the human female and the human male. In a healthy state, the power of this creative energy is immense. Note, I did not say sexual energy. Consciously channeled, it can be used to create beauty of an unprecedented order, of a nature surpassing all that came before, making visible the invisible beauty of God. Never before on the material plane has dialogue between divine masculine and divine feminine had the potential to be as clear, as concise, and as conscious as it can be between the men and women of your human family. When male and female meet on the medicine wheel, they each carry a distinct creative charge. Though their roots weave together and spring from the same source in the same Great Spirit, they incarnate on earth to face one another with distinct energy charges profoundly attracted, with immense capacity to create through the universal power of the love that can flow between them. Note, again, I did not say sexual activity, for that is of the human state and now utilized for all the wrong reasons. Each woman moves in an energy current, a tradition as distinct from the traditions of men as the very first creative division of God. Though you men and women have lived together in the same lodges and felt beneath your feet the earth of the same villages, though you have shared the same interpretations and slept together in the same illusions, you are each at distinctly different points on the great medicine wheel. Yet as different as these points are, they are profoundly compatible, designed differently to stimulate maximum creativity. They are the very points where God meets God, and so be it. To we who have followed this process for the billions of years, there is nothing more incomprehensible than the concept which is entertained in the warrior societies, that there could be conflict or opposition between the feminine aspect of God and the masculine aspect of God. Do you realize how severely this concept limits you who accept it? You will not find your place in this universe or form a basis for understanding her mysteries until you shed such superstition and realize that Mother God and Father God are profoundly in love, dear ones. All about this universe that is feminine adores and reveres that which is masculine. The sole purpose of all about this universe that is masculine is to serve the feminine through the celebration and animation of the beauty that lies in her heart. Let me be perfectly clear. I repeat, the sole purpose of all about this universe that is masculine is to serve the feminine through the celebration and animation of the beauty that lies in her heart. Feminine and masculine are balanced in all healthy manifestations, equal partners, lovers, responsible participants, the truest of twin friends. Your ancestral programming is invalid. Primitive notions of conflict between male and female lead to not-so-primitive weapons. Let your human world reflect instead the truth of the great love in which you are every moment suspended. Awaken into a new perception and understanding of reality. Reality, not as misinterpreted by the warrior tribes, but as understood by all the angelic races of God throughout eternity. Awaken into an accurate perception of the universe in which you live. You are the love of Creator embodied in human form. Through the power of your love, you create. You are in the service of universal art to create beauty and to enjoy all that has been created. The evocation of beauty and the description of truth. This is your purpose, the purpose of life, the very purpose of the universe. In its own way, each species decides how it can best serve this purpose once it understands it. The buffalo notices what is going on in prairie time and prairie space, and designs a life to describe truth and to animate beauty as buffaloes understand it. Whales describe time and space in their own unique forms of three-dimensional mobility, playing and swimming through seas of sound and light. The deer and creatures of the meadows embody their understanding of the universe and create beauty and balance as they recognize of it. Birds embody their understanding and create winged beauty. Angels embody their understanding of this universal purpose and become the means through which the Great Spirit creates more species to enjoy it. Further, they create that which the human form needs to make transitions to and from the eternal realms, so that his perception of self is not damaged by the transition. Throughout the galaxies, throughout the stars, all of the angelic races notice this purpose of life and decide how they best can serve. Each healthy species looks at the external world while experiencing the internal unity whole and unbroken, and forms an idea of the wholeness of manifest life. This is its comprehension of the universe. Human beings' technical comprehension of the universe has expanded beyond the antelope, the ape, and the fish. They have explored the microbes and begun to reach out unto the stars. Yet your historical rejection of eternal spirit has left you myopic, extremely self-sighted, with no overview or larger vision to help you organize your knowledge into a coherent whole. You are the instruments through which creation is to become physically conscious. You are the species through whom one day the whole material universe shall become aware. You are God's organs of awareness awakening in this turning age, from the sleep of historical subconsciousness. Masculine and feminine are both rooted in the unified divinity whose spirit now awakens in you, whose identity you now remember to be your own. In spirit, you are not separate from these two aspects of God but have brought into being, through the loving interactions of these, your own inner polarities. The conception of new life requires highly focused creative intention. It takes attention to detail of such a profoundly precise nature that, were the focus dissipated among many cells simultaneously, the miracle of conception could not occur. Of the human body's 100 trillion or so cells, only 2 cells are initially involved in the conception of a child. You float in a galaxy of some 400 billion stars and many more matter worlds. Yet in this galaxy, only 2 worlds are required for the conception of new life. Do not be surprised when we who have roamed among these stars tell you that you are indeed special, that you are precious beyond price, that you are so incredibly loved by the source of all that is, that your one earth and your one sun are conception points for the new life of worlds to come. Do not shun such love or let narrow minds convince you it could not be. Accept this love. Feel it for yourself. A gathering together and focusing of energies has been necessary to produce the awesome and incredible miracle that you are. The attention of the universe is focused on your earth. The universal mother herself is conscious in this world. The father of every star looks through the eyes of this one sun as your journey takes you onward. For your earth has experienced human conception. You have become the blessed life stream of the universe. Are you proud of that which you have performed in this wondrous gifted experience? So be it. We thank Tunkashila, the grandfather, for sharing with us this day in his wisdom and warmth of being. I too bow in reverence to the wisdom of his presence. May we always be given in strength and wisdom to remain within the lighted path of the red road home. Your race is about to awaken the circuitry of consciousness, the global intelligence system of a planetary newborn that will be half star and half material world. She shall become one with a new dimension, and fly as on wings of eagles to regain your place among the tribes called bird, your ancestors, your family of the stars, your cosmic brethren. You shall soon come home as the ending migration is completed. The first migrations from your place are already underway. Precious ones, it is most essential that you ones come into truth of this writing, for you have so many gaps and missing pages in your historical documents, and the unknown causes you great fear. Because your brethren of Pleiades feel responsibility and kindredship with your human Earth species, they come with the hosts at this time to assist, to evacuate, to do whatever is required to help you in your transition. They feel that they have vested interests in your place and are feeling great concern that they caused some of your own chaotic past and present circumstance. They and we are come to assist wherein we might serve in the service, first of and to God, in balance and truth within the creation, and unto you, our relations. May we come into understanding, one with the other, that we might work toward truth, and again, bring peace and wondrous magnificence unto the species. I am known as Gyeorgos Hatonn, Commander-in-Chief Earth Project Transition of the Pleiadians Sector Flight Command and the Intergalactic Federation Fleet, Ashtar Command. Let there be no misunderstanding of who I am. I come in this portion as a fourth-dimensional project commander in charge of Earth transition.